Folks, I tell you all the time, our country is in need of bold leadership. This next candidate for the Republican nomination for the President of the United States is only one brave enough to come on the show twice, which means she is either a bold leader or a heavy drinker.
Or it's a lot of fun.
A little bit of, oh, how about that? She's buttering me up now. Last time she came in, guns blazing, wiped out the studio. But Nikki Haley is back in the house, and the crowd goes wild. Good to see you.
Thanks. It's great to be back.
It's good for morale. I like having you around. We get into music. We do a lot off the air. People should know that. We have like a second show. Like we should release the director's...
behind the scenes.
Yeah, we should release the director's cut. You know, a movie comes out and then they're like, these are the scenes that didn't make it. Like you and I talking about traveling was a good show. There was a good travel show.
It's true.
Come on, Nikki Haley. Well, you're back in New York. Unfortunately, you do have to pay for your hotel because you didn't sneak into the country.
That is true.
I don't know. I hate to tell you.
No free cell phone for me either.
I don't know how the campaign budgeted for this trip, but you will have to pay because you are a legal citizen. It's a weird time, I know. Are you kind of surprised by the brazen nature of putting the needs of people coming into the country ahead of the people who have not only lived here legally, but in a lot of instances fought to protect this country? We've seen veterans evicted from hotels.
I mean, it is the twilight zone, and it is the most un-American thing I can imagine. These people were willing to shed blood for us, and we're going to say, oh, go ahead, we need you to leave so that we can allow people who didn't come here legally, and we're going to go take care of them instead of the ones that defended our freedoms. It defies all logic.
That part drives me crazy. I mean, we were just reading a report that they're going to be housing migrants in school gyms. So you're talking about, like, imagine you're playing a game of Red Rover, but they're actually sending people over. It used to just be like the people in class. It's a weird time to be alive. But what I'm amazed by is almost the indifference, because this is a humanitarian crisis. The numbers we've already hit since this president took office are, never before seen in the country. But what happens at the border winds up in 50 states. I mean, have you heard about it in your travels? When you're on the road, is the border something that comes up when you're in Iowa?
I mean, this is more than a crisis. This is a national security threat. Iran has said the easiest way to come into America is through the southern border. And we're just saying, come on in. We'll give you a cell phone and we'll give you some money along the way. I mean, the problem is we have to acknowledge what happened. I went to the border, and I didn't just pull a Kamala go and come back. I went 400 miles down that border. What I saw was unthinkable. You see, literally, these ranchers wake up in the morning and they go see if anybody died crossing their fence. They go and pick up whatever little kids were left behind. Sheriff said they go and they turn over illegal immigrants to Border Patrol. Border Patrol documents them and releases them until their court date 3 or 4 years from now.
Yeah, that's bananas.
And when I talked to Border Patrol, they said, you want to know what we do? We're glorified babysitters. 5 million illegal immigrants have come into this country.
That's crazy.
We can't afford one person, not one. And why are they allowing it to happen? I don't know.
Well, that's the part that drives me crazy. We're talking to Nikki Haley, Republican candidate for the President of the United States of America. God, it sounds so flashy. Listen to you. You got all fancy on me, Haley. We used to be pals. Now look at you now. Look at you now. But it's so crazy to me because one of the things happening right now is the Democrats, and Secretary Mayorkas is certainly doing this. He's conflating policy with border enforcement and saying, well, until we get the policy we want. But people aren't coming because of the policy. They're coming because of the lack of enforcement. Aren't we, on some perverse level, incentivizing them to do this?
We totally are. You're waving the green flag. I mean, think about when they first started coming. They were wearing Biden T-shirts when they got there. I mean, and the ones that are winning are the cartels. It's not the American people. I mean, we can feel it with the crime on the streets. You can see it with what's happening in our hospitals and our schools. Every state's a border state. The fentanyl, #1 cause of death now of adults 18 to 49, fentanyl. Don't think China doesn't know exactly what they're doing. And our enemies are laughing. Yes. Think about it. Our enemies are laughing, thinking, what in the world are they doing? We look so distracted.
What it reminds me of a lot at the border really quick is, when you're a young kid in college, there's always one bar in town that's not checking ID. And once the word gets out that everyone can get in, guess what happens?
They're packed.
Everyone gets in. There it is. It's so banana, and it drives me crazy. But there's so many other things I wanted to talk to you about. Okay, so let's get into this too, because there's a lot going on. Okay, you and I were talking off air about how the fact that the presidential race isn't really the race yet. It's like the Kentucky Derby. I was saying to you, we're finding out the horses in each skate, and we're watching the jockeys, and we're learning about other races they run. But the race doesn't really start till you guys all get in the ring together. Okay, and you start debating. Do you expect a full debate stage? Do you think Trump's going to debate, first of all? Because he keeps saying he doesn't want to.
I think he will. I think he's trying to leverage. I mean,
Okay.
at this point, for him to get on the stage, it could only hurt him, really. So I see why he's trying to hold out. But at the end of the day, he's not going to want to be called a coward. He's not going to want to be said he's not on there. And I think, you have to look at 2016. Ted Cruz in July, which we're not even there yet, he was at 4%. By October, he was at 10%. By January, he won Iowa caucus. You look at Scott Walker. He was above 20%, the golden child at that point. He never made it to Iowa. So a lot's going to happen. The first debate's in August in Wisconsin, second one at Reagan Library in September. I mean, by fall, things are going to really start moving. Right now is the calm before the storm.
Mike Tyson, famous fighter, used to say, everybody has a plan till they get hit in the mouth. Are you the Mike Tyson of this campaign?
Or they get kicked with a heel.
Yeah.
Either one.
Everybody's got a plan. Well, I don't want you to be the Mike Tyson. You can't bite off my ear because I have a hard enough time hearing as a radio host. If you take one of these away, I got big problems.
I remember seeing that fight. Were you watching that?
Yes, Holyfield.
I was watching it live. You saw the piece of ear, the whole thing.
It was
unbelievable.
I remember Miss Mills Lane was yelling. He was the ref. He's like, he bit his ear off. And we were like, wait, what do you mean? How is that a thing? But it was a thing. It was
totally a thing.
Oh, Nikki Haley's in studio, a sports fan. We forget about that. We've talked music. We've talked sports. The one thing that I would worry about, the reason I couldn't be you, especially going back to Iowa, is there's so much good fried fair food in Iowa. I couldn't go. I would have to be, if I was on your campaign, I'd have to work via Zoom. I'd be like 800 pounds right now.
We haven't been to the fair yet, but everybody's like, don't eat anything. Don't eat anything. So, we'll have to see. Apparently it's quite the to-do.
No, they're not. It's a hazing ritual. I've been there. You know what happens? People in the heartland, are such wonderful, good-natured people.
They are.
But they don't know the difference between hospitality and hazing. Meaning they don't offer you like a burger at the fair. They offer you 67 burgers. They don't buy you a drink. They buy you enough that you fear for your life. That's what it's like to be me on the road. So I can't imagine what it's like to be you, Nikki.
Well, and that's like in the South, too. People are offended if you don't take it.
Yeah. Now, that's a thing. So you've got to be, as a gracious guest, I guess I will have 33 pounds of barbecue.
That's exactly
great.
Right.
Oh, it's tough on the road. Let me ask you another thing I wanted to talk about. We get the findings in the Durham probe yesterday, which, again, I think is such an embarrassment to the DOJ and everybody who kind of perpetrated this thing. I don't know that we're going to see any full accountability. It seems like there's a real indifference to this story in the media. But in a perfect world, what could a President Haley do in this situation?
We have to have accountability. This is a scandal. The idea that our top law enforcement agency didn't follow the law and the idea that it was politically motivated. That's what happens in third world countries. That's what I fought at the United Nations and saw. That's not America. So not only does there need to be accountability, we need to go, everybody whose fingerprints are on this need to be fired. Every one of their managers and supervisors needs to be fired. Heads need to roll for this. And Democrats need to be speaking up. This isn't just something that can happen to Republicans. It can happen to Democrats too. And they should care just as much. Those that are being dismissive of it, and I saw on MSNBC, they're just saying this wasn't a big deal. You know what? Be careful, because this is America. And the second you start allowing corruption in your agencies like this, it's all over. We can't allow that to happen. There's got to be some accountability.
Would you be concerned? We're talking to Nikki Haley. Would you be concerned if you win this election that they wouldn't try to backdoor you into harm's way? Because that's essentially what they did to Trump. It was like a soft coup attempt.
Well, let's be clear. I was governor. So the first thing I did was go into my agencies, and I would do that as president. You go into your agencies, you clean house. You go and you pull out any regulations and rules, but you also take out your, those spoiled eggs that are sitting there causing problems within your agencies. That's the first thing you do when you get into office. And he didn't do that. I would do that. I know the importance of doing that and cleaning up your agencies before you even start dealing with Congress. That's what we would do.
It's funny because, as an outsider to government, in that regard, it's almost a disadvantage. The people like it because it's great. We got a regular guy going in there. But then you don't understand how the process works. And you don't realize, as you just said, the need to kind of snow globe this thing. You got to take the village, shake it up upside down and let it reset.
Especially when you're changing parties.
Yeah.
It's really important that you go out and you take out that middle senior management that actually pushes legislation that doesn't agree with who's in office.
So Nikki Haley wins the presidency. It's a busy week on LinkedIn.
Yes, it is.
There's a lot going on LinkedIn. A lot of people updating skills.
We're cleaning with more than a broom, I'll tell you that.
She's going in like that deep clean. That's what my wife wanted to a deep clean for Mother's Day. I did not get her that. My wife, I got her Zach Brown tickets. She wants to go see Zach Brown. She likes a concert. I can't get cleaning for Mother's Day. The right thing to do if I'm a decent person would be to do the cleaning.
No, the right thing to do would be do both.
Yeah,
clean and then take her to the Zach Brown concert.
Jenny, I stand corrected. Nikki Haley is just now offering her services as a marriage counselor. And to be honest with you, my wife's willing to pay for this.
I'm multi-talented.
I think it's garbage, personally. I liked you better as a presidential candidate than a marriage counselor. But give me this. Has CNN offered you a town hall yet?
They have.
Get out of town, Nikki Haley. Is that a thing? Is it coming?
You'll have to wait and see.
How about if she comes on with a cliffhanger? I think that's awesome. And I want more of what we call crosstalk. That was the one thing I appreciated about Trump going. It's the one thing I would absolutely cheer on about you going, is I think as conservatives, we welcome the idea battle. We want these platforms. So you have my full support if you show up. You need to.
I mean, that's America, right? A democracy. I mean, that's when I was at the United Nations, that's what countries loved about us, was that we had the debate.
Yes. Imagine that. And the idea is we were never supposed to agree on everything. We were allowed to be free-range chickens, e pluribus unum, out of many one. Do you remember growing up when you could agree to disagree?
Yes.
Now it's like you disagree. You're like, you're the worst person who ever lived.
No, now it's hating on each other. And the problem is, like, people won't even make eye contact anymore. It's crazy.
Well, if you're watching CNN, the Mike Tyson of politics is coming. You might be coming.
No ear biting. No ear biting.
Don King has not officially sanctioned the match, but this was a great battle as always.
Thank
Nikki Haley, I miss you already.
Oh, it's fun. We'll be back soon.
Rock and roll. There she goes, the great Nikki Haley.